Welcome back to the You Should Get a License podcast edition, your number one source for information, education, inspiration on the most underrated career path in business today. That is a career in the insurance and financial services industry. Today, very, very exciting because we have, one of the leaders of the new school, essentially, for this business, Mr. Calvin Royster Jr. He's the founder and owner of A New Financial. They're a full service brokerage firm, really serving the Black millennial community and just doing some great things. Has helped thousands of people. And he's from my hometown, Richmond, Virginia. So he's on the home team. I want to give it up. Say welcome, Mr. Calvin Royster Jr. to You Should Get a License. Hey, Calvin, thank you for being here, good brother. Appreciate you.
Absolutely. Thank you for this and the platform, being able to share the license experience and the opportunities in the industry. I think that's dope.
Hey, thank you, man. And that's really what this is all about. So, when we're speaking on this platform, many of our listeners are people who are, I like to call them familiar. So they may be familiar with the industry. Maybe they're in the process of working on their licensing. They're in a pre-licensing course, or they're new to the industry. And they're learning from, professionals who have essentially been there, done that. Let me ask you as we get started, what's your area of specialty? I know you say you're full service, right? So when you say full service, what lines of insurance, financial services do you offer to your clients and customers on a day-to-day?
Sure. So I think the first way to look at it, full service, just meaning all the lines of, I don't say all lines, most lines of insurance I will handle through my agency. As far as a specialty and a niche, because I do focus on the Black millennial household, I deal with a lot of young professionals, entrepreneurs, startup companies. So for that reason, a lot of times what comes through my door is auto insurance, life insurance, and then commercial, whether it be commercial auto or general liability, things like that. So those are like the three main focal points that we focus in on at the agency.
Awesome, man. So let me ask you that. What? And I want to get into some detail with it too. But
sure.
But what is it that kind of, not what led you here, but at this point, what is it that you enjoy? Like, why do you enjoy being in this industry? If you had to kind of summarize it.
Man, I would say just and this is going to sound cliche, but just the ability to serve people, because, a long time, not even diving all the way into the story, but, through my career path, I had a struggle trying to find something where I could have an opportunity to make good money and feel like I was adding value to my community. I would either make money and not be adding value, or adding a lot of value and not making money. But insurance actually allowed me the ability to marry the two. And the ability to be able to feel good about being able to be committed to my community and not worry about, having to put food on the table was the ideal situation for me.
Yeah. Why do you feel like, I'm glad you mentioned that too, because just to kind of hover on that for a minute, because you say, hey, there are opportunities where, you want to be of service to the community, right? And you can do things where you can make, a lot of money. You can really do well, but you might not be bringing the value that you want to bring. And then there are other things where, you can really dive in and do a lot for the community, but you might not be able to produce the economic resources that are necessary to really forward, what your initiatives are. And I'm refreshed to hear you, speaking of this industry, the insurance industry, financial services, as a way to kind of bridge that gap. That's one of the primary objectives that, I want people to really pay attention to, is that it does allow you to not only add a tremendous value to your community, to your family, to those around you, but also can be very lucrative as well, right? It's a powerful industry. Why do you feel like people are intimidated, by this business?
I would say it's just, I think it's the perception of it, right? Like when I think of insurance, I think of, middle-aged or older white male, because that's, to be honest, I think we even talked about this. If you look at the dynamic and the makeup of the industry, we represent about 8% of the industry as far as agents and brokers and things like that. So when it comes to that, I just think, we may be intimidated by, how represented the industry. We don't really think that's for us. This is something for other people to do. It might be, and then and this is kind of where I found my, again, niching down, was I also think that the other part of the perception is that it's kind of dry. I'm trying to find the best way to put it, but kind of dry, stiff, not exciting. And so I said, when I come into this space and I go off onto my own, because I did work under others for a while, I want to freshen up. I want to make it exciting and sexy if possible. And so, that's where I kind of found my lane, adding humor, entertainment, and showing it as in a different light. And so I've actually had fun in doing that. And I've created a whole little, I don't say character, but an alter ego, we'll call it, named Insurance Bay, which has been great for marketing. Great for marketing.
Yeah, we see that on your social media. You'll make sure that they got links to check out Insurance.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Insurance Bay is wonderful, man. Great for marketing, but it gives me a space in the lane to be creative, have fun, put insurance in different light. And it's allowed, for a lot more conversations I found with millennials and things like that because of the approach of it all. Hey, we don't have to be in suit and tie to talk insurance. We don't have to talk about, you passing. We don't have to talk about this, that, and the other. We can put it in a way that you can digest it, but first and foremost are willing to listen to it. And so I think that's what makes it so intimidating, just the perceptions that are out there of it. And, it's just about us as agents kind of taking onus and recreating that narrative for ourselves.
Very powerful, very powerful. So let's take a minute and kind of go back. You touched earlier on, your journey and doing different things. I want to go all the way back, 9-10 years old. Okay, Calvin Royster Jr. What were you dreaming of? Now hold on. You're native of Richmond? Native of Richmond?
I'm not. So born in California. But
okay.
Essentially, I was raised in Central Virginia. So
okay, born in Cali, came out East Coast, settled in, took over, became Insurance Bay, got the guns on IG. I got you, right? Okay,
that's right.
Not 9-10 years old. What were you dreaming of being when you grew up?
It's funny you say that. So around 9 or 10, honestly, if I remember correctly, I was telling people I wanted to work at Walmart because my dad worked at Walmart. So they were like, that's great, but is there anything else you like to do? And I'm like, I don't know. So, but a little backstory to that, I had always been in some dynamic and form and shape of sales. So my very first sales hustle business, whatever you want to call it, I was about 4 or 5 years old, and I was probably 5. I was actually selling stickers. My family came over, and I would get a blank piece of paper. I would put my little stickers on it from my little sticker book, and then I would go try to sell it to them for a quarter or whatever I was trying to sell it for. They to this day won't let me live that down. That's why I so vividly know the details of that. But so that was like my first thing. So I've always been around and involved in some form of sales, but around 9-10, I was probably thinking Walmart.
But you know what? That goes, that's powerful, right? And no diss, because people that work at Walmart, respectable employment. If you make an honest living, it's respectable.
Absolutely.
But it's all about like what you're exposed to, right? Because that's what you saw. Just like we see, many times in this industry, people who have grown up around it end up joining the industry, taking over their parents' organizations. There's a few of us who've been able to do that and really do it on a high level. Shout out to Quincy Branch and Branch Benefits. But there's the majority aren't necessarily people who are going to look like you or I, right? Who have that legacy. How'd you find your way, into this space? Like, what's your career journey like coming out of, and take me back, coming from high school and all the way up?
All right. So in high school, I was actually, believe it or not, I was a troublemaker in high school, man. I got around the wrong crowd and I made a lot of bad decisions, I will call it that. And I scooted out of high school, man. I barely got out. And I remember at one point in time, I was ready to drop out of high school. And when I realized that all of my friends at the time, that they were still actually graduating. I thought we were all ready to quit together and go live, the life that we were talking about. But I realized, man, I'm gonna be the only one that's dropping out. Everybody else is actually graduating. So the last second I kicked it in gear. I had to get through one class. I passed it. And then, there goes the graduation. So from there, I actually made a decision to pivot my life and make better choices, get around different people. And I picked up a job serving 2 for $20s at Applebee's. And so I did that for just under a year. I want to say I was walking to work, and I'm gonna sound real old school here, but I used to actually have to walk because my license was already suspended. And I'm not even 18. Well, I think I was just 18, 19. My license was suspended since I was like 16 years old. So I didn't have any driving privileges. So I actually would walk over a mile, but I think it was closer to 3 miles to work each way. And I would do that. See, get rid of that. All right, cool. Okay. So am I on there? Okay, cool. So yeah, so I was walking each way to work about 2-3 miles. And I did that, and I grinded, saved up, got my first car. So now I've got my first car, and I'm actually doing pretty good as a waiter. And sure enough, I get into a wreck after having the car for about 2 weeks. I'm turning my life around. I got my license finally. Finally got my first car. I'm 19. I'm like, yes, everything's going the way it's supposed to go. And 2 weeks later, somebody totals my car. Motorcycles weaving in and out of the traffic, totals the car. So when that happens, the claims adjuster for, I guess, his company came out, and they were actually their logo was wrapped around the car. And, naive young version of Calvin was like, man, I can if I go get a job like how they have, I can only have a career, but I can get a car. So I need a car. I can get a 2-for-1 if I just go find an insurance company to apply for. So there was one, Geico, always hiring. And I was like, well, let me go try Geico. Everybody and their mom works at Geico. So let me go apply there. Apply to Geico, get through the interview process. And, that was a great experience because they help you get your license. They go through the classes, they pay for everything. So that was my introduction to the industry.
Wow. Let's pause right there for a minute, because it's always interesting to find how people got introduced to the business. That's the first time I've ever heard anybody ever say, I saw the person driving this car, and I was like, if I get into insurance company car.
Man, I can't use a car right now, so let me see. You guys hiring?
Hey, but you have a point, right? It's like whatever works, and it's like, man, look at where we are now. So take me. All right, so you're working at Geico. Are you in claims at this point, or what are you doing?
No, I was in. So I was doing inbound sales. I was doing just auto sales though.
So you telesales, you're taking calls. How long were you there before you decided, hey, I need to make the shift? And what was the catalyst? Like, what was the moment where you're like, hey, I think I need to make some moves?
Sure. So I was there maybe about 3 or 4 years. Okay. And I'd always been business minded again. So I actually pursued some other business ventures. I left Geico, pursued other business ventures, and that kind of opened. And along with other business ventures, I got into outside sales. I had no idea. It was a whole new world exploring outside sales. So between the other business ventures and outside sales, I kind of became a journeyman, just going through that process, right, of finding, okay, what opportunity is right for me? Okay, I make a lot of money in this opportunity. I've had opportunities where I was clearing 6 figures. Opportunities where I was making absolutely no money across the world. So I went through that process for a few years. And then I wanted to be specific, probably about 4 years of going through all these various opportunities and jobs, man. And, to be fully transparent, just to encourage whoever may be listening to this. I think that in that patch, it was probably over 14 jobs that I had in that time frame, not including other business ventures and everything. So it was a lot of transition because I just could not find it. I know what I was looking for, even though I never had it, but I know that there's something else, no matter what the opportunity was that was coming up. And I had finally did some soul searching and was like, you know what, I've got to slow down and speed up. I need to figure out what is a good fit for me. And I kind of went back to the insurance experience I had at Geico, and I'm like, insurance it was actually pretty fun selling it, but I just didn't like that setup. So what other avenues are there in insurance? And I don't want to do just one thing. I don't want to do just auto sales. there's other things that I can do. Let's see what else there is. And I actually looked into life insurance, and I looked into it, saw that there's a lot of earning potential there. You could do this, that, and the other. And I was like, maybe this could be a good fit because it seems like it solves a problem. There's good money to it. Let's see what's going on with that. So from there, I went and took an entry-level sales position with a Banker's Life. And again, great training. They help you with this, that, and the other. I'd already had my license coming in, so I got started right away. Did that and quickly realized that while the training was good, the product wasn't working for where I was working. And that was an issue. I would sit across some families that looked like you and I, and, out of 10 of them, I either could not write them or the product was overpriced. So with that being said, I realized I need to find a way. I like this, but I need to find a way to make it work for myself. So again, slow down to speed up. I said, well, I like this. How can I make this work for me? So I looked and found out you can become an independent agent. I said, wow. So figured out how the process, what the process was for that, and did that. And so I've been doing that for the last 4 years now.
That's awesome, man. So let's go back a little bit, because you talked about, when you started and, you're working for the large organization, kind of coming in the door, pretty restricted on, what you could offer, what the conversations would be in that environment. So you were doing some other things. So you've always had an entrepreneurial spirit,
right?
From a child with the stickers, right? Even up to, working in the larger organization and, finding those, other kind of ancillary or, supplemental businesses to explore. I think that's important to note, because sometimes we undervalue our experiences and the skills and wisdom and lessons that they teach us. How do you feel that's contributed? How do you feel those experiences, like trying those different businesses, how do you feel like that's helped your success in this industry, and especially running your own agency now?
I mean, all of it is because it was a lot of, I won't call them failures because I learned from all of them.
Right.
But I think all of those experience has helped me kind of fine tune and find out what I like, what I don't like, what are my strengths, what are my weaknesses. And through all of that, it also helped me visualize, where I want to serve, where do I want to focus. But I wouldn't have gotten to that, or at least not as quickly as I did, unless I, went through that. So I think that was the biggest takeaway. I'm like, okay, well, I don't like this setup. I do like that setup. And then, as an agency owner, those prior experiences helped me build out the positions that I need, and being mindful of the training environment, the culture, the mentorship, building out, what to offer salespeople, what might be important to somebody. And so I can take all of that, build out something for myself, but then more importantly, as an organization grows and bringing in sales representatives, I can have them in mind as well with past experiences.
Yeah, absolutely. The other piece, and maybe this is even an extension of that, but you had mentioned you started in the property and casualty world. So if you're in the telesales, you get property and casualty. but you also decided that you were going to do life insurance as well. And when you got with the carrier, you walked straight to the door with the license. So is that life license something that you went and did on your own, or is that something that you had with the corporation as well?
Yeah, no, so the life license I did on my own, just because I knew once I decided that that was the jump I was going to make, I went ahead and did it. And then from there, I said, I know I'll find somebody that I can partner with. Interestingly enough, it was right around the time my son was born. So I had no time to play. I was like, let me get this license knocked out so I can get started with somebody, because he's going to be here like tomorrow.
That's
So
motivation for you, right?
I had to, I couldn't play with it. I had to jump on it. And if I was going to make that pivot, I needed to do it sooner rather than later.
Yeah. And that's another, just kind of interesting point, because in a lot of cases, people kind of focus on one or the other, but you've been able to develop, expertise in, the property casualty world and in the life world and on the health side too, because you work with employees and employee benefits as well.
Right.
How has that process been for you? Is that something that you recommend? This is something that's dear to my heart, because we share those licenses in that way. So do you recommend that? Has that process been easy for you to manage, those different lines and make sure you're staying up on all of the relevant information? Is it something that you recommend to someone new? How just give me your thoughts on being, multi-market licensed.
Yeah, no, I love that question, especially for the audience, man. So for me, I won't say it was necessarily easy, but I will say it wasn't. For one, I enjoy what I do. So it doesn't take a lot for me to go seek out new insurance information or go to be talking in insurance industries and other groups and things like that, and just constantly learning about being insurance. One of the things that I did learn from Geico, I had an amazing supervisor who actually unlocked a lot of potential in me, because he showed me the importance of tapping into sales at a professional level. And one of the things he said to me was, let me take a step back. I always thought sales was, for being a sales professional, was just dressing professionally. And he said, actually, there's so much more to that. A big part of being a sales professional is being an expert in your industry. And so one of the things that, so me coming into the industry, one of my first experiences was learning a lot about the industry itself. So in between calls at Geico, because the setup there, not to give out all their nuggets, but basically the better you perform, the busier you're going to be. So in the beginning, as you're getting good, you'll have more downtime. So you can spend that time on your phone, or if you want to become an expert, you're looking through company guidelines, you're reading insurance articles. And that's how I spent my time. So I was almost indoctrinated in the idea and the practice of learning about my industry. So that's how I brought into it. So that's how I always approach it. So the rest of my insurance experiences, I came at it the same way. So all the insurances that I sell today, for the most part, I actually was up under somebody at some point in time, learning the process and the product, the companies, the insurance regulations around that particular product. So when I went off on my own, I had already sold 80% of what I'm selling now through somebody else. And so I just pulled it all together. So for the new person, what I would suggest is, instead of doing everything at one time, especially if you're new to the industry, I would focus in on one, but be open to growing at the level you're comfortable to getting others. The ultimate goal is, yes, let's talk about getting to multiple lines, because it's going to be more beneficial for you, especially if you start talking about exit strategy. If you start talking about exit strategy, selling your agency, not every book of business is that marketable for somebody to come buy you buy your agency, if that's the goal. So just being as an agency owner, knowing that it would be in your best interest to stretch out across other lines, and being strategic in which lines you open yourself up to. But ultimately, yes, grow to that at what level makes sense to you. And I think that would be a great goal for end goal for every agency owner.
Absolutely. Two things I want to pull from that conversation. I'm gonna go to my phone and unless you know this right off, because there is a statistic dealing with something that you said. You said when you were starting during the downtime, you were taking that time to learn about the industry. Right. And there's a statistic that says if you spend, I can't remember the exact, if you spend an hour a day, or it's something that says you'll become an expert in your field.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah.
If you spend 1 hour a day, you spend 1 hour a day, you'll be an expert. 1 hour a day reading on your field, you'll be an expert in 7 years. So you think about that. If you take let's see, what's the you could take like the rule of 72, but in this terms, right?
Right.
And say, okay, well, if I spend 2 hours a day, I cut that to 3.5 years, right? If I spend 3 hours, I can cut that to a 1.5 years. So I think that's a really powerful statement, and I don't want that to get lost like in this conversation. I want to really hone in on what you just said, because that was really poignant, and very important. The other thing that you said, which is also equally profound, you said, hey, look, when you get into the industry, you got to think about your exit strategy as well. How are you going to get out of this business? And that's a piece that I think a lot of people miss, even coming into this industry. They're not thinking about, what am I building over time,
right,
that I'm going to be able to, either leverage and leave as the legacy for my family, or maybe they're just thinking about in terms of renewals. But really, here's a business that I can pass on, or a business that I can liquidate and have a pretty good living with. I'd like you to just, speak a little bit more to that, just from a concept standpoint, for someone who may come into the business, and what that could potentially mean for someone over the course of their career.
Absolutely. And I think it goes back to what we were talking about earlier, what might be intimidating or discouraging some of us from getting into the space. And I think if we just have more conversations like this around what are truly your opportunities, you don't have to be a generational insurance agency. You can come in, you can make your money and sell it and go do something else and create another generational company, right? So I think that from a conceptual level, I think that, coming in and knowing that, part of the opportunity there for you is building an established agency, knowing that you can one day sell, and knowing that there's people out here that are willing to buy. I mean, I'm a part of some groups on Facebook. There was a sale done in the comment thread. There was a gentleman that he'd been in this agency, I think, for all of 3 months, but he had became an elected official in his municipality. And according to their laws and regulations, he had to give up his agency for conflict of interest. So he put in his numbers. He showed his numbers and said, this is what I've done so far. And I'm looking to get out of it. People were lighting them up. So again, there's opportunity there, and just knowing that is something that you can pursue. It's just a matter of how you set it up. Again, certain lines are more attractive than others because of the money that's going to be in it for whoever's coming to buy it. But there are people that are willing, and agents that are willing to buy you up. It's just a matter of, do you have a healthy enough book for them to do it? So it's something that's not a far-fetched idea, and it happens pretty often.
Yeah, people talk about, there's a, hey, I want to be a boss, and I want to build it big. I mean, listen, this is an opportunity to lay that foundation in a very, very significant and just massive way. That's so important. So, kind of coming in now, how has it been? You've been running your business. You came from the corporation, you've been running your business, about 4 years, doing it well. What do you find is the difference between being on that corporate side and being independent and running your own show outside of, everything just being, on you and you.
Yeah, that's a big part. I'd say the biggest thing for me was there's two things that were important to me, and I realized very quickly that work out from the independent side and to make it very hard to see myself going back to the corporate side of things. One is the marketing freedom. Little thing in prior positions, it baffled me that I would have to get something approved through the marketing before I could go out to do a booth or something like that. Like, why do I need to do that? And also there's so much, and I get it, they're protecting their brand. And I'm probably trying to avoid an E&O claim, but,
errors and omissions for those who
right. So, liability,
Right. We don't want to use it. We all have it, but we don't have
it. Right. So, I understand it from the business perspective, but as somebody who's looking to go generate and create, and I like to think I have a very creative marketing mind. I don't like the restrictions on that. So that was one thing. The other big piece I would say that on the independent side that I really like, of course, is the ability to really stretch and grow however I like. Like if I didn't start off a full service. I actually started off as just a life guy. And I said I was going to be a specialist. Through trial and error, I realized that there was a lot more, actually through COVID really is what did it. I was kind of put in a position where I had to make a pivot. And then looking at my niche, when I really, again, slowing down to speed up, when COVID hit and I realized that, I was going to have to make some critical decisions if I was going to stay open or not. I had to look at my options and I said, okay, well, if this is your audience that you want to get to, and this is where you want to be inevitably, what are you doing to put yourself in position? Because at the time, and I keep going back, but prior to COVID, I was just a life agency. And I really always wanted to speak to millennials, given from my prior experiences, but I was always still spending a lot of time with final expense or working with a lot of seniors. So I was saying I wanted to do this, but I was still pursuing that. COVID happened and it sat me down. And I said, okay, well, it's now or never. If you want to get to your audience, how are you going to do that? And are you in the best position possible to speak to them? And so that's when I was able to make that pivot for myself. And I picked up my PNC license again. And from there, the rest is history. And it's been very steady, and its growth has been great ever since. So that was a great decision. But going back to my initial point, the ability to make that type of pivot and make that type of decision, I'm able to do because I am independent. On the corporate side, that wouldn't have happened. I think those would probably be the two biggest things.
Yeah, no, that is huge. I mean, being able to kind of control your own messaging, right? Because you kind of control over your brand. I think that's huge, and then having the flexibility, to make those pivots when the environment changes. I definitely get that, because in COVID, I was actually in an environment where I was writing for a company that wasn't equipped to deal with that shift at all. It disrupted the entire infrastructure of the company, So that's a huge point, that you make, Calvin. At this point, with your agency and continuing to build it, what's keeping you motivated? Like what keeps you going? What's fueling you right now?
Not done, man. My sights are set pretty high. I think there's still a lot more in front of me that I want to achieve. Is some of them that I'll be willing to share would be, I definitely see a New Financial being a household name within the Black community, and I'm going after it hard. I'm not being apologetic about who I'm trying to help and how I'm trying to help them. And I think that, it was a little, I don't say nerve-wracking at first, but I knew that I was a little hesitant because I didn't know how that was going to be received. And I didn't know, if it was going to be profitable for me, just being honest. So, but, going through that, it has definitely been both. It's been profitable and it's been well received. So, I'm not a household name yet in the Black community. So until I get there, I still have a lot of work to do. And then I do have some even larger goals that I think is ironic because, and Gazi, she talked about it, a Black carrier. I would still love to be involved in that in some way, shape, or form. So a lot still left out there for me. And yeah, with all that in front of me, it's no reason to slow down now.
Yeah, for sure, man. For sure. Yeah, because you're revving up right now.
Yeah.
You're revving it up and doing quite well, in that process. So kind of going back to the life and the PNC switch and dealing with the millennial demographic, right? Because there's two things. There's two things I want to touch on here. The first is, how do you approach, not how do you approach millennials? Let's just talk about the millennial demographic and life insurance, because property and casualty, okay, we know, and on some chart, I guess I'm a millennial too, but I'm talking about the other millennial. Property and casualty, hey, okay, they're gonna have auto insurance, they're gonna have homeowners buying a house. Life insurance, millennials. Talk to me, brother. What's up?
Ooh, man, that's why I was scared to dive into it. That's why I was toe tipping, to get over to the millennial side, just because I wasn't sure on how to approach it. The urgency isn't necessarily there. It's not. In most cases, it's not. So for millennials, the biggest thing that I found that helped me have success in this market was, one, I don't even really talk about death benefit a ton. When I do my initial consultation, it does come up because we've got to figure out your number of how much coverage to get you, but I don't talk about it a ton. I figure out the number, but I focus on living benefits. I focus on cash value. I talk about private banking, which is hot right now. It is hot. I'm actually doing an exclusive private banking call where I'm, walking you through private banking 101, because I think that's a lot of information there that's valuable that we need to get the message out. But focusing in on those things has made the conversation completely different, because we're not talking about when you die, because you think you're never going to die. So let's not even talk. Okay, cool. Since you're going to live here forever, let's talk about this cash value real quick. Since you are in business for yourself because you don't want to work for nobody, cool. I understand that. I respect that. So how about growing something that's going to allow you to tap into capital for your business down the road? Okay. Well, you don't have the 401k plan because you don't understand it at work. Okay. Well, how about we talk about some supplemental retirement options? So we started talking about those type of conversations, and now I've got your ear. Before, when I was talking about, oh, well, if you pass, when you pass, 40, 50, 60 years from now, that wasn't catching it. So shifting the conversation to those type of conversations and what life insurance does now and today and in the near future has been very positive.
Yeah, I was waiting for you to say that. I knew that's where you were going to say, because the conversation of like financial literacy, financial education, like it's a hot topic right now. Yeah. It's something that everyone, you see it on social media, and there's, I did a little post about it because I was like, there's a lot of sound bites.
Yes.
There's a lot of sound bites. And the thing I wanted to ask you, because I knew we had this conversation coming up, was, look, with those sound bites, people get excited about it, right? Yeah, how can I have my own bank? I'm trying to, get a well, I don't even know if they know the term IUL. They might not know the term IUL. I don't know. When you talk to them, they may not know, whole life and all that good jazz. But I'm trying to, do infinite banking, right? And that's one of the big ones, right? So how do you explain to people that this does not start the first day that you open this policy?
Yes, yeah, because some people I even had, and it's funny, man, because I'm sure you get it as well. We sometimes have to play cleanup crew. If you're an ethical agent, you clean up a lot of other agents. Because taking a step back in this industry, there's a lot of turnover. People don't stay for long, and a lot of times they're coming in not trained that well,
Yes.
nor are they seeking information to improve their education around what we truly are marketing. So in that, a lot of times we do have to play cleanup crew sometimes. And to your point, I actually had somebody that called me the other day, and they were in discussions with an agent that was telling them their goal was to take money and in 90 days use it for X, Y, and Z. And the agent they were talking to told them the IUL, or a permanent product, a product that lasts you your entire life, if you do it appropriately, was the proper fit for that, and they would have access to money in 90 days. I'm like, as much as I would love to help you out,
Right.
you're not going to be happy with me, because that's not going to happen. Are there cases where you can tap into your money fairly quickly? Yes, but from the average person, that's not going to happen. You have to have a good amount of cash value already coming. You have to dump money in. So
A lot of
for the
money.
average person, that's not the conversation. Yeah, man. So as far as how we approach that and just letting them know, I just like to have just set expectations early, man. Just we get on it. I tell them about all the things that it can do, but I emphasize long term. I don't really talk about stuff that's in short term. I'll ask about goals that they may have. Like, what are your 3, 5, 10-year goals? I don't talk about what you want to do tomorrow. What are you trying to do a few years down the road? Because this is not even going to be ready for you until then. This needs time to cook. It needs time to marinate. So, yeah. And then in doing that, and most of the times it's received and understood if we're having that conversation up front. We are setting the expectation of, yeah, you give me some money today, and tomorrow you can go take out $10,000 and you can go buy, nah, that's not how it works. That's not how it works. So
Awesome. No, I just wanted you to share, something on that from somebody who's in the space, helping people to, create, these kinds of contracts, that will, allow them to establish generational wealth, that will allow them to receive, tax-free income, down the line, potentially at retirement. But understanding that there is an approach, like this works in stages, it's not an immediate thing. How do you feel being in this industry? And this is one, because for me, I'll tell people, if you really want to understand this stuff, you need to get a license. You need to just get to the industry. And then
Agreed.
Really, kind of embrace it, right? How do you feel though that being in this industry has changed you as a person? You talked about your early years and kind of being kind of rocky. Getting into this industry has evolved you just as a man.
Whew, man, I've learned a lot, but I think that one thing, man, it definitely has I'll say it has checked me in the sense that there's a lot of opportunity, especially as a broker, to fatten your pockets at the cost of others. And so and in the beginning stages, you're growing and you've got decisions to make. Hey, rent's due. Mm-hmm. If I do this, my rent's paid. But the client loses, or I can do this, the client wins, and rent's probably not getting paid. So being in those situations, I can walk away proud that I can say that the clients, I always make sure my clients win. It doesn't matter what's going on with me personally, the clients are going to win. And I think that, being tested in the fire, in a sense, did a lot for me as far as my confidence in being able to do that. But also, I just think it has made me become even more purpose-driven and selfless, because, and not before that, again, not really having not a sense of purpose, but I didn't really have anything to attach my purpose to, or really couldn't able to fine tune what it was. And so being able to sift through all of the experiences and find that thing that I can attach to and have that purpose, and everything that comes with this, being more selfless and developing myself to become better, and really just caring about people a little bit more. That has been probably the biggest takeaways from being in this space.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Now, being able to kind of crystallize a vehicle for that,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
No, I get that. I definitely feel that. And the other piece, you know, I bring stuff whenever I hear something that I think is really, really critical. I want to kind of poke it a little bit, because when you said, you know, there's a lot of opportunity, there are opportunities. Not gonna say a lot, but there are opportunities in this business where, you know, you can do what's best for you, or you can do what's best for the client. The best agents always do what's best for the client. The people that have the most success, they always do what's best for the client. The people who have the longevity, they always do what's best for the client. And I think that, you know, in our industry, you know, sometimes we have like this stigma, you know, with people who are in insurance and financial services that, you know, they're going to get over on them, or, you know, they're trying to, you know, run some kind of game, or you know, insurance is a con, or whatever that is. And the reality is that's just 100% not the case. You do have a few people who do things that are erroneous, and they pay the consequences.
Yep.
But they pay the consequences, you know, and they're severe, right? But for the people who do it the right way, those are the people who have been around, who establish a track record, like yourself, you know, Calvin, who build up a clientele that trust them, and who ultimately end up as the most successful people. Not to mention the fact that insurance is in any financial, in anything in this financial industry space, this is the highest regulated industry in the country. You know, there's always, you know, the CE, you got the CEs, you got to make sure that you stay up on. There's compliance guidelines, you know, for every product with every carrier that you have.
Yes.
You have multiple levels of government that you have to answer to, you know, if something is done incorrectly. You have very little wiggle room with what you can do with carriers, even like what you said with the marketing. Like that's a big piece, you know. You can't change rates. Like whatever rate you see, hey, it's not my price.
Right. It's funny, man. You ask people their budget, and I feel like you think they're trying to haggle. I'm not trying to haggle with you. I just want to know, you know, what we're working with here. I promise I can't change the price.
Look, I'm just sharing. I'm just sharing what's here, right? No, but I think that's important to just really highlight that, you know, for most people who are in this business and doing it the right way, you got to be incredibly honest. Like I have met very few. I've met some. Now I've met some. I met some. I got a couple stories of some folks who did some crazy stuff, but they paid the price. But for the most part, the people that I've known in this business are always people who have, you know, upright character, you know, very strong, you know, moral compass, you know, very strong values, incredible work ethic. You know, that's the people that I see in this industry every day. So I'm glad that you mentioned that, man, because, you know, I want people to know that most of the people in this business operate like you, think like you.
Yeah,
you know,
absolutely.
In the best interest of the client. Tell me something. Here's something cool. Now we always do what's in the best interest of the client, but at the same time, if you do well over time, you're gonna have some success. What's something that you've been able to do in this industry that, you know, just something for you, you know, that you enjoy, that you feel like, hey, you know, this business gave me this.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think the coolest thing was I told my son, because, you know, I very much bring him in on the process. He's only 5, but I get him in the mix as much as I can, because I'm just trying to, you know, plant the seed. Hey, this is, you do something with this, you know, this is for you, pay attention. And if not this, maybe at least remaining around business. And so, you know, but with that does come a price. You know, there's times where we can't always do the fun stuff. Daddy's got to work. You know, there's our sacrifice I have to make. I can't get you all that stuff right now. We got to wait.
Yeah.
But I made I promised to him that, you know, if we did X, Y, and Z, I would take him to Disney World for his birthday. So I was able to do the business I needed to do, hit my goals. He did what he was supposed to do, and I was able to take him to Disney World. So that was amazing in and of itself. He had the time of his life. It was his birthday. They treated him like a prince. I mean, everybody stopped. If you haven't been to Disney World, this is a free plug because they're not paying me. But I would say definitely it's worth the experience. 5-star out of 5-star.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome. And let me ask you this question. Who do you have to ask for PTO for y'all to take that trip?
Myself.
Just curious.
Yeah.
Just curious. Okay. So as we wrap up, man, we talked about what's motivating you, but you know, you have the agency is functioning. What's the dream? What's the end goal? What's the ultimate move for Calvin Royster Jr.?
Sure. So the new financial, that's my baby. So that's going with me till I'm gone. As far as big picture, kind of like we hit on earlier, becoming a carrier. I want my hand in that. I want to be a big part in developing a Black-owned carrier. I think there's a lot of, again, I think the industry, I think this is fact, the industry is behind on certain things, which to an extent has been beneficial for the industry because they are conservative. That's why they're still here. On the other side, there's a lot of opportunity, especially around underwriting sensitive to our community, where it can improve. And so I think that, you know, a company that's representative of the Black community and reflects us around underwriting as well and actuarials as well, in product and sales ideas as well. I think that's a piece of the game the industry is missing. And so being a large part of that is definitely a big goal. Outside of insurance, you know, I would like to say I'm a serial entrepreneur because I have a lot of ideas, but, you know, insurance takes up a lot of it because I'm really trying to do some big things with this. So, but I'm sure I have other businesses I'll sell and things like that. But the big end game for me, the insurance wise, is the carrier.
Very piece. All right. And you know, you're right. That is important. I mean, you know, there was a time where, you know, we had some carriers. You know, we had Atlanta Life, they're still around. North Carolina Mutual, still around, but they're smaller. You really don't hear about them. And there was a time when they were larger companies. You know, here in Richmond, we had the United Order of True Reformers, like their association. But over time, it's like our presence has really diminished to an almost, I'm not gonna say non-existent, but it's a very minuscule on a large level. Like on a large level, yeah. To really be able to kind of shape the direction, you know, of where the industry is going. So I think that's certainly very necessary, and even maybe a revitalization of some of those other companies who've been around for a while, because, you know, a company can really only do what it has the economic support to do. You know, especially when you're talking about quasi-banking institutions, you know, like these insurance companies. So yeah, man, that's a strong one. That's a strong one. We're gonna talk about that. Yeah. But but as we close out, what's, you know, for somebody who is looking to get into this space, you know, maybe they're on the fence, you know, they're thinking, you know, maybe they went and interviewed with, you know, a carrier or an IMO. They're thinking about getting licensed, getting into the business. Maybe they're on the fence. You know, what would you say to that person? What kind of words would you share with them?
I would say, go ahead and get the license, because the worst case, you have a license, and to me, getting an insurance license is equivalent of a vocational degree or certificate. You know, you can turn, just like somebody can go to HVAC school, somebody can go to a cosmetology school, or whatever it may be, whatever the trade may be. These people are doing that. They're going through all this, spending thousands of dollars, spending all this time, and are, you know, to go pursue a career that they may or may not stick with, but there's a lot of income potential. Insurance is no different. You just go get the license. On the scale of the other options out there, insurance probably has the lowest cost barrier of any of them. Real estate, you're going to spend thousands of dollars to get into. Insurance, 200, in Virginia, it's about $200 or so, give or take, by the time you finish background, fingerprint, all that other stuff. So very affordable price point to get into the insurance space, get the license, and then get connected with somebody that can kind of help walk you through and figure out, where do you fit in it? And you don't always have to be a salesperson. There's a lot of opportunities in different departments within insurance companies, small companies, big companies, this, that, and the other. So a lot of opportunity there. The main thing is just making sure that you give yourself a chance and get the license.
Love it. Love it. If anyone is looking to connect with Calvin Royster Jr., a new financial, I don't know if you're recruiting, if you're building and bringing on others, but if they want to just get in contact with you and share some more, get some more information, kind of share some more of your time, how do people reach you, Calvin? I think we lost Calvin for a minute, but I will tell you that A New Financial, you can find them online at theanewfinancial.com. Man, it was a great conversation, to have. I think we had some technical issues, but the anewfinancial.com. If you are on Instagram, you can look him up, Insurance Bay, and just a great guy, an incredible professional, and I hope that in the conversation you heard something from him that just made you think to yourself that this could be something that's a new for you, and maybe you should get a license. Until next time, thank you.